When it comes to plugins and processors, I categorize all of them into two groups. There's one group that replaces a signal, and there's another group that adds to a signal. Let me explain. A voice has been recorded with too bright a microphone. In this case, I would take an EQ to straighten out the frequency response and make this voice sound more natural. I have replaced the previous sound, and all I hear is the EQ'd version. In other words, the previous version is no longer audible. I have replaced that. You could look at a noise gate. Compressors typically belong into this category, and all of those effects I simply apply in the mixer as an insert effect right here. Okay, so far so good. Let's talk about the other group of effects, the ones that add to the signal. This could be an echo effect or delay. Could be a slapback effect. It could be a reverb, a chorus, and so on. We want to hear the original signal, and then we want to add an echo to it. Or we want to add reverb to voice, or we want to add a chorus to bass. In this case, I religiously follow send routing. And this is based on a workflow of one of these old school analog consoles. Compressors, like processors and EQs, were inserted via the insert on a per channel basis. For time-based effects, we typically used aux sends, which carry the signal sideways into summing bus, into the effect unit, and then they typically return as a 100% wet effect. I'm carrying this workflow into Pro Tools, and although we don't have to, I still think it's the best workflow there is. So let me explain how I'm doing that. Back to Tools. So let's open up, let's say, my drums. For example, over here is my snare plate send. That's where I use an aux send or bus send to reroute a copy of the snare into a bus that carries the signal sideways to the drum plate over here. In this case, I'm using a plate reverb. Snares and plate reverbs, they love each other. And this effect has to be 100% wet. Means no snare comes through it, but only its reverb. So what I get now is my dry snare over here, and only the reverb tail through my reverb channel, and none of the actual dry signal. That has a huge advantage, and that is that I can process the dry signal and the effect channel entirely differently. So why is that important? Let me explain the story behind it.